Hey everyone, Cynics here, and I just got finished with Anime Expo the other week, and it reminded me of a topic that I've wanted to cover for a while, and that is the topic of finding your catalyst. But before I dive fully into that, I do want to talk about what I'm doing here in the background and maybe give you guys a few art tips. So this is a reference painting that I started on my Twitch stream, and you can see that I'm loosely following the photo, but I'm definitely making things much more anime as well. Anytime I do line art from life or reference, I always try to focus on keeping my lines as straight and angular as possible. I think it's good to be more geometric in order to get your proportions looking correct. But the most important tip I have for you guys is actually about colors. So if you look closely, you might notice that I'm using different base colors for each section of her body. People tend to be very uniform with their skin tones, and I really encourage you to get away from that. So you can see her left leg is completely different than her right leg, and her lower torso is different than the upper torso, the neck's different than the face. Both of the arms are completely different colors, and having that level of variation in your base tones is going to make everything look a lot more realistic and a lot more enjoyable for the viewer. And once you have all of your base colors established, you can go through it and add shadows and highlights according to each little section independently. You might also notice that I'm trying to keep all of the highlights and shadows very well defined and with very clean edges. And you can notice that especially on things like the hair or the highlights, that having a nice clean edge shows a lot of confidence in what you're doing. And don't be afraid of using strong colors. Anyway, I think that's about it for the rough painting stage, so this is definitely an ideal time to take a little paint exploration break. It's good to liven up your creativity a little, so maybe we can give her a little cyberpunk arm bracer, or just flip everything over, maybe try to find a camel in all of that chaos. We can paint its toe, and if you look closely enough, maybe we can find a scrawny caveman hunting for his dinner. Or who knows, maybe we can just keep flipping things around and settle on a nice, peaceful environment. Maybe a little sunset in the background, lots of warm, earthy colors. But anyway, that's enough of our little detour, so let's get back to the actual painting. And from here on out, it's just gonna be a lot of rendering, blending, and making things look buttery smooth. So I think that means it's a good time to dive into our main topic of discussion, finding your catalyst. One of the main topics of discussion that people still like to bring up with me a lot is about my 6 months of hard work, where I went from being a casual art fan into being a working professional. And people constantly ask what was my workflow like and what did I study most, but I think they're ignoring a big part of that whole story. And that is the catalyst, which was going to the San Francisco conceptart.org workshop, because it literally started that weekend, and I don't know if I could have just found the strength of will to wake up one morning and start working like a madman. There needs to be an event that spurs it on. And the best type of event is one that gets you out of your routine completely for at least a few days, if not more. If you allow yourself to be shaken up by an event enough, you simply won't be able to go back to your everyday life. And the reason this is so relevant now is because I felt the same way coming home from Anime Expo. It was 4 days of almost no sleep, just socializing with other artists and feeling inspired by their own passion. I met so many amazing fans, which made me feel really great inside, and even just watching Ross interact with his legions of fangirls was really inspirational. I just like seeing how much passion people seem to have for art and the artists who make it. Okay, maybe it's a little silly, but watching these people break down with raw emotion just at the sight of Ross was completely adorable. I'm really happy I got to share a table with Jet and Ross. They are wonderful people. And aside from that, I finally got to meet some of my artist friends in person, such as CT Chrysler, who is delightful. And I even got to meet some artists that I hadn't talked to before, such as Sakimi-chan, who is just the cutest person ever, along with so many other talented, amazing people. The days after a convention can be a bit strange because you feel this slight void inside from not being around all these creative people, and the only way to fill it is by just being extra creative yourself. So this was a nice little bonus catalyst, and I feel extra inspired to just work super hard for the rest of the year. I hope you guys can find your catalysts as well. I recommend try to do something where you have to travel. Try to do something where it's going to put you out of your routine for at least a good weekend or something. Go to a convention, do an artist alley table, even if you don't like your work that much. At least maybe you can walk away feeling a lot more driven. I think that's about it for this art piece in the background. It's looking pretty sexy and the buttery smoothness has taken full effect. I can get a bit wrapped up in skin tones and hue variations, but I think I really want to try to bring in a lot more dynamic lighting in a lot of my art pieces going forward. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a big thank you to all of my patrons for making these videos possible. And if by any chance some of you guys are going to San Diego Comic-Con in the upcoming weeks, be sure to say hi to Ross and Jet. They're going to be doing a booth again. I think it's going to be number 2046. Just tell them Cynic sent you. And as for me, well, I think you're gonna have to wait until next Anime Expo, but who knows what'll happen.